Welcome everybody into the Fantasy Sanctuary. I am Tyler, aka the EmoCowboy, and I am joined today by a very, very special guest. I'm very excited to bring to you all Steve Shoup from Fanspeak, Steve-O Speak on Twitter. Welcome in, Steve. It feels like it's been a long time since we've gotten to do a stream together, much less on this channel. So thank you so much for coming out tonight. Really excited. How you doing?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on. Always enjoy being part of the sanctuary. And no, really excited to talk best ball. It's back. Lot to talk about. So good to be back. Dailies are fun, but they are not the same.
No, not at all.
And so, no, really excited to talk, in this pre-draft process, which I think you and I are very similar in, like, we like to think of different strategies and concepts and try and take advantage of that, and the best time to do it, I think, is now.
Yeah. Except you have a lot of the intimate collegiate incoming rookie class knowledge that I'm barely scratching the surface of as I come up to speed. I'm checking consensus, big boards, just to get a feel for draft capital to see, is there someone truly mispriced just from a, range of outcomes for draft capital, so for opportunity. But I'm not a college ball knower by any means, and so I feel like I'm sure you have a nice edge here where you're taking in macro, veterans, year 2, year 3, and just veteran players in general, but also having some of that collegiate knowledge. I know famously y'all were in on Cam Scatterbo real early on, over on Fanspeak, and if not for the injury, what a smash, So absolutely. It pays to know, who's really good, because at the end of the day, we keep seeing that talent does emerge. Mm-hmm. Some less talented players are bailed out in situations. So what I'm really curious to pick your brain about is, in these early drafts, we're months out from the combine, let alone the NFL draft, let alone training camp, when the most actionable stuff we're going to find out is happening there, even with all the noise. How are you getting into these early drafting streets? What are you looking for? What are you seeing? ADPs have shifted quite a bit. I think we're getting more and more, okay, hands up, wide receivers not the answer, running backs are the answer, and things of that nature. So, I'm really curious how you're playing these early ADPs.
Yeah, so I think from an overall perspective, I think you're right. We've seen a shift in running backs being pushed back up the board. For the first time in 3 years, we've seen this many running backs go in the first 3 rounds, and it also makes sense. Running backs just score more points. Sam Sherman, and hey, guess what? He just won $2 million. Said that a couple years ago, and not to say you can't do still zero RB or hero RB or anything like that, but running backs matter quite a bit. And just because they're the most consistent set of scoring outside of quarterback, and they can have the widest range of outcomes. So I do think already adjusting to that, the running back dead zone to me hits really hard and really early, basically after the Ramondre Javonte Williams grouping, and that's just assuming Williams goes back. All those other running backs in the 70s, 80s, 90s, many of them were going to be backups, some clear backups. So that's when I start to get interested in some rookies, and specific ones in that range are Jadarian Price, Jonah Coleman, Emmett Johnson. I'm sure PPR Tyler's been talking to you about Emmett Johnson.
He's convinced me he's the second coming of CMC with the way he's talking about him.
But I mean, he really is. I think he is not the second coming of CMC, but I think he is going to be a second round pick when it's all said and done.
Which is huge.
Breakout year at Nebraska, and also can be a 3-down back, and one that shows good vision, contact balance. So he's got the whole package, and if he puts it all together, gets the right landing spot, could really pay off. And the fact that right now he's going in the 130s. So you talk about the mispricing. Right now, consensus big boards have more as a 3rd rounder, but I do think he emerges more as a 2nd rounder when it's all said and done, just because of, I also think he'll run well at the combine. He'll do well at the combine, so that'll help him.
And last year was kind of funny because none of the rookie running backs were particularly that good or effective for a multitude of reasons, despite what was it like? All but 3 of the running backs that were at the combine absolutely crushed the speed score. So like they're all fast as hell incoming, but that doesn't mean they're necessarily good. But from a home run hitting perspective, they
Yeah.
can. It was an odd class, and so I'm really curious that like this incoming class seems to be potentially more well-rounded, less tweener, what do we do with types coming out. And from an opportunity perspective, maybe that bodes well for, hey, they're just going to earn more volume early on than kind of what we saw last year with Woody Marks splitting, Hampton splitting before every running back went down. Henderson obviously never really took the full workload when both backs were healthy. So, and Harvey, same thing. Like a lot of running backs split, and the split kind of stayed. And even when it didn't, they didn't seem to like really, hold on to all the work, or they weren't that effective doing it, despite all having pretty interesting prospect profiles and like combine peripherals. It was an odd year.
Yeah, I honestly think the biggest thing there was it was a combo of two things. One, a lot of bad landing spots. At this time last year, I thought there's no way the Patriots are taking a running back. They had Ramondre and Gibson well under contract. These guys weren't easy to cut and like save a lot of money or anything like that. So it just made sense, like for all your needs, you need receivers, you need weapons, you need offensive line. I didn't think they were going to take an early running back. I thought maybe day 3 at best. And then they go and spend on Henderson. Denver was one and Chargers were one. Even Chargers, I mean, we were taking when they signed Najee to a $9 million deal, we thought, hey, that's real money. It's 1 year, but it's real money. Much more than Rico Dowdle got at $3 million or Javonte Williams got at $3 million. So
sure,
sometimes money just didn't matter. Like they just loved Hampton so much. But then that's the injury side of it, because I think Hampton and Scadaboo would have absolutely smashed if not for them getting injured. I mean, look at what Vidal did in Hampton's place, and Hampton's clearly a much better running back. Then even when he came back, he was still banged up. And then of course Scadaboo had that great run from like weeks 3 through 8, and then gets injured now for the rest of the year. And we saw plenty of games where like Singletary's getting 2 touchdowns, or Tracy got 2 touchdowns against my Washington Commanders in week what was that, week 16 of the playoffs or 15 of the playoffs. And it's just like that would have been Scadaboo. And so, the other interesting thing is some landing spots that we thought were really good, 2 rookies hit there. Kyle Monangai in Chicago, JCM in Washington. Yet these were 7th rounders. And, Woody Marks said we didn't think at this time or at draft day, because we didn't know the extent of the Joe Mixon injury, but he did get an opportunity, and does show that opportunity, end of the day, is what's going to drive fantasy points more than anything, because nobody thinks Woody Marks is the most talented back. Nobody thinks JCM is the most talented back, but they ran for, 700-800 yards. Nangai, I think, is pretty interesting. I love his profile going forward. I think he can definitely continue to be the Dave Montgomery in that offense.
Okay. And, when you kind of look at, and so that's what I'm curious. You mentioned a couple teams there. I'm really interested, like where we as a market before the draft are going to be overconfident and with false security of, and we do this every year. We just start pattern matching. We buy into too many rumors. The Cowboys need a running back. The doctor was the guy that did the surgery, so Jonathan Brooks is locked in. Denver loves Henderson. They have a need there. Henderson's going to Denver. He's definitely and the draft capital ended up kind of bailing it out from a price perspective, but like we steam guys up because we go, well, that's the need and that's easy to make even after free agency. And there's always wild cards in the draft. And so I'm curious of like who are going to end up being undervalued veterans at their prices, because we're too overconfident they're going to be replaced. DeAndre Swift, great example.
Yeah.
The market for most of last year was convinced Ben Johnson hates this guy. He's not that good. Despite them spending the most money on offensive line to really retool things with Caleb, despite us knowing that Ben Johnson offenses are a boon for running backs, DeAndre Swift is dead. He's going to get replaced. And even though he split work with Kamanun guys, you mentioned, like ended up being a huge hit because of opportunity, a good offense, a good coordinator, and ultimately just, scoring chances that, few other running backs got, especially in the pass game. So what I'm curious is like, are there any, ADP came out super fake. It's still very fake right now, but it's starting to kind of form. And I'm curious if you have any like macro takeaways that you've noticed as far as like you mentioned the running back dead zone seems to be kind of like that, like maybe round 6, round 7 to 8 or 9 before like the rookies. I'm curious if you're like, this is just too overconfident, or it's the market's playing too scared, or we're too certain about even some rookies that are already steaming up that like, well, we're sure about the landing spot, or we're sure about the draft capital. We're sure they're very good. I'm curious if you have any of those like early flags, both green and red.
Yeah. So for running backs, and I'll start with a spicy take, and that's I think we're taking Love too early, Jeremiah Love. Like
Okay.
I think we should have learned a lesson from Genty last year. Landing spot also. I mean, he got the opportunity. It's just the offense was terrible. And it's more just the opportunity cost of some of the other running backs going right behind him, or even wide receivers right there. I consider Love, and anyone can vary this how it is, but I think he's a better prospect than Hampton. But even after the Najee issue, we were only taking Hampton with the Chargers, who was a perfect landing spot at the time. We thought they'd have an awesome offensive line. Of course, everyone got injured, but we knew it was a quality offense, and we were only taking them 35 to 40, even after the Najee eye injury stuff. So why would we take Love just sight unseen? If he goes to the Chiefs, he might pay off, top 20 ADP. But
people
if he goes,
want Chiefs to draft another CEH so bad, and I think it's very obvious they've learned their organizational lesson, especially this year where they have a lot of offensive line holes to fill with a banged up Mahomes.
Yeah, and no draft or salary cap.
Yeah.
And also they have like 3 defensive backs. Their core defense could take a big hit also. So
you think Love is pretty overpriced in the
I think he's a great back. But it's even a couple years ago, Bijan, fantastic back. I think made the best rookie prospect.
Yeah.
But I mean, that can happen to so many teams.
That's true. Even with good draft capital, it does not bail them out of a bad situation, whether that's environment from a like talent perspective, performance perspective, or a coaching perspective. And I think that's a great point. I tend to be really maybe overly simplistic and like, hey, the price, the pattern matching, the history, and the talent. But you're right. We know so little about what's going to unfold in the draft for those teams, how the summer's going to go out. And then ultimately, like these games still cash out week 17.
Yeah.
Injuries are going to happen. Coaching staffs are going to get fired. Guys are going to get demoted, promoted, etc. A lot's going to change. And so ultimately, like, opportunity may be very much impacted by chaos, and that cuts a bunch of ways. And ultimately, I think that's a salient point that you're a macro point to take away from the Love point is that arbitrages are a good thing because they buy down your risk. And so, if a 9th or 10th round running back slightly fails expectations, you're not likely to notice much. And so it's easier to get that type of profile to pop and pay off for you when it matters, rather than, well, if your 2nd round pick or your 3rd round pick slightly misses expectation, then you're probably getting double hit because the opportunity cost of a guy that really exceeded expectation at the same cost is burying you. And it's a lot harder to, pay off when it matters. And so I think right now arbitraging is a great point of like, hey, there are cheaper rookies at every section of there are cheaper types of this profile at other spots in the draft. Buy down your risk by assuming a little bit of, it's almost like investments, right? Like if you can have a less volatile, investment early on, your portfolio and roster is probably going to, benefit from that just because you're not taking on more of that risk early on.
Yeah. And that saying all that, like, I'm not going to have 0 Jeremiah Love. I just won't be aggressive on it because to me, I would rather, at that spot be taking guys like Derrick Henry, be taking guys like Chase Brown, George Pickens as wide receiver. Like we know their role. I mean, some of those, and I know we'll get to this, it is the Wild West this year with so many 10, head coaching switches and like 15, 16 offensive coordinator switches is just totally insane.
I'm curious on your take. Where are you, like, for all the like the OCs and HCs, is there anybody you've just decided, persona non grata off limits, or you're like the market's not taking advantage enough of like how good this hire is? I'm really curious how you're kind of
the first one I'll say is Mike McDaniel for the Chargers and what it means for particularly Hampton, but Ladd McConkey, and honestly, just everyone. I think McDaniel, hopefully the Chargers do actually have a healthy offensive line this year. But the fact that Mike McDaniel, who's always had a great history, even though he's done a lot of run game coordinating in the past, you talk to former receivers who've been with the Browns, the 49ers, obviously the Dolphins. We've seen what he did with Tyreek and Waddle. He's just so great at creating opportunities for guys. So I think Ladd benefits big time. I think QJ and Trey Harris benefit big time. So I'm excited. I'm really excited for them, and obviously Gadsden as well. So I think the Chargers, I know Ladd kind of hurt us last year, but there's just so many paths forward for him to be worth the second round pick this year.
I am curious. Do you think they're going to be aggressive in replacing Keenan Allen? It seems like, I don't know that he returns at his age and his price. And so I'm curious, they've got a ton of money. And so I'm really curious if like they could absolutely invest either in the draft or in free agency big to replace that third receiver spot. And I still like it for Ladd, but like, there's only so many targets to go around. I think it's really big for the running back and whoever the wide receiver one ends up being.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think a lot will, how much does Mike McDaniel like? They brought in two interesting rookies last year, Trey Harrison in the second round, and then Kendry Lambert-Smith in the fifth round, I believe. And, how much does Mike McDaniel like those guys? How much does he like QJ? I think Ladd makes a lot of sense because, we know Mike McDaniel is big on route running and
he is kind of like the model archetype. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's going to work out real well. And Ladd just fits, different body type, but we know what good route runners do in the Shanahan McVay tree. Like we see this.
Very good point.
Time and time again.
I am curious. I can't wait to jump back into this. We are on the turn. What do you like here at the 12 spot? Ashton Jeanty, Trey McBride, Malik.
I kind of like the Jeanty Hampton combo here.
Jeanty Hampton?
Yeah. I will say I'm
you guys
a little bit more into Justin Jefferson now that I think JJ McCarthy won't be the quarterback. But
yeah, now that they've fired the GM, I guess it's more possible they actually bring in like a salient, good quality quarterback. I'm good with whatever you want to do here. So you call your shot here, Steve.
I say we're just talking Mike McDaniel, and it is a positive, and I think Clint Kubiak's positive for Jeanty. I will say, speaking of coaches situations I don't love, is Matt Nagy to the Giants.
It's such a vibes killer. I was so excited for Harbaugh and Dart and like let's build Baltimore 2.0, and then they bring in Matt Nagy, and my God, that was such a bummer.
Yeah, I think it's probably neutral for Scatterboo, but for Neighbors and Dart and Theo and stuff like that, it's just like, oh, not great.
And I'm kind of worried about Neighbors because like the injury news on him was that he's behind Scatterbo in recovery and rehab, and it's like I don't love like his age and his athletic profile indicate that typically these types of guys return to form sooner and faster and just fine, if not better. But the early injury news is kind of scary. So when we're talking about like, buying down risk, I don't know that I love the risk of Matt Nagy plus the unknown injury timeline and recovery for Malik Neighbors. So that's, and then, you mentioned Kwesi getting fired. Well, the risk now organizationally, I feel a little bit better about because, okay, KOC could go in and just try to, bring back the husk of Kirk or anyone that's not
literally anyone would be
bad.
better.
And Justin Jefferson all of a sudden looks much better. That said, they are in cap hell. And, I don't know how much like, I don't think the smear campaign that's going on with Kwesi is like 100% accurate. So it's like there's still some risk. And so I'm curious from like that perspective, The second round feels like no man's land. I'm not quite sure what's good and what's fool's gold. I'm curious how you're kind of handling the second round ADP as it starts to take more shape.
This is the tough thing is, those receivers we just talked about, Jefferson and Neighbors, and I think there's risk for both of them, particularly since they go near the turn. Drake London, we don't know his quarterback situation. And for as much as people love Kevin Stefanski, is he really this offensive genius? I mean,
Many are asking.
I know I am. They won on running game, so I'm okay with Bijan, and defense in his years in Cleveland. He didn't develop a quarterback, that he had a first overall pick in Baker. And, it's like outside of a 5-game stint with Joe Flacco and Cooper going off, like their passing game was never elite, anywhere near elite.
Yeah, that was kind of just like volume bonanza. Yeah. They weren't particularly like good.
No, it was kind of like Jacoby Brissett this past year.
I was going to say, it's exactly like the Jacoby Brissett thing.
Which, shockingly, a Stefanski disciple in Drew Petzing.
Yeah, and Petzing kind of seemed to struggle with anything outside of the run game. So, maybe canary in the coal line. And as Casey Brown says, yes. If this coaching carousel was truly a harbinger of the times, because what could have been, let's take an upside shot on a young upcoming coach turned into we have to buy bonds in the form of all of the oldest retread guys we can come up with for any semblance of balance. That worked so well with Pete Carroll and Matt Nagy before. We definitely got to try it again. Curious what you'd like to do here. We jumped in and auto-loaded, so I think we can talk openly for sure. What would you like to do here on the turn?
I mean, I'm fine. Allen at cost I think is fine, but I generally like going receiver. I'm not big on Garrett Wilson because of that situation. So Ladd and Devontae Adams and JMO are my 3 receivers in this range.
I don't mind building out some nice LA stuff. Very open to that. And I just want to give you a look and see if there's anybody else you're interested in.
I think I'd go the 2 LA receivers, Ladd and Adams.
You have to twist my arm. Adams still being good, still scoring a shitload of touchdowns, and still managing to do it weeks after a severe hamstring strain at his age bodes well from the standpoint of like, okay, I understand. Like he's not likely to, or how likely is he to return costs on 14 touchdowns? Not likely. I wasn't lucky. I can say as a process standpoint, felt pretty good process to Adams still looks good. He's performing well. Matt Stafford is a wide receiver kingmaker. Sean McVay is a wide receiver kingmaker. His handcuff upside is pretty high. And also he's just a red zone threat his entire career. And that tends to age really well from what we've seen of like, if you like DeAndre Hopkins before the injuries, Adams keeps himself pretty healthy. He's a good route runner. He's a big body. He's got good hands, tends to age well. And it's continued to do that. And you can't really say that about a lot of other guys, especially in this format where touchdowns are so important. This isn't a PPR website. So it's like, give me the guy that can score multiple touchdowns on a week. And we know that it's likely to come from A, good players, B, really good offenses, and C, when both of those things are combined. And Adams continues to be that guy.
Yeah. I mean, Adams, he missed a number of games last year and had 14 touchdowns. I'm pretty confident that's more touchdowns than Garrett Wilson, Zay Flowers, and Smith had combined. So
I'm convinced he threatens his previous leading the league in touchdowns, if not breaking his own record, if he plays all 17 games.
Yeah.
And you can say all you want about the air yards, but it's like touchdowns matter a lot. And he's the red zone weapon of like his era.
Oh, for sure. And the other thing is Rams had a lot of like blowout games where they were just crushing teams. And, they'd make sure Stafford get his 3 to 4 touchdowns. Like
he did well.
And he gets those, but there was a lot of times in the fourth quarter they weren't throwing. And, this could be a more balanced year where they're still throwing and his yards are catching up to the touchdowns as well, or making up for not getting to 14.
I'm fairly certain they feel really good about running it back, having a little bit more injury luck. They lose Higbee. They deal with some injuries on the offensive line again. the run game's not as effective as they'd like it. Puka misses some time. Adams misses some time. I'm sure they're ready to run it back.
Yeah.
They're kind of built to do that. And from that standpoint, yeah, I mean, like what happens if the defense regresses a little bit? They overperformed as like a young unit. If their health regresses, if their performance regresses, if the run game regresses, we know they can go super pass heavy. We know they're going to score a lot of touchdowns. And what if Puka misses? It's like there's so many what ifs where Adams either easily meets or exceeds his price. And then from like the standpoint of like, how many other guys would you like in the finals if healthy? And it's like, well, the guy that can score 2 or 3 touchdowns seems like a good bet at cost. Even if the air yards are dipping, like air yards don't score me points at the end of the day. And yeah, like I'm okay simplifying to like he still looked good even when injured. And this is still an offense we want to invest in. And I haven't seen the decline enough where I'm like, Derrick Henry just keeps proving it. Devontae Adams keeps doing it. I think this class of guys is just built different.
Oh, for sure. 100%. There's a couple guys I like
here. We got some rookie names like Tyson and Lemon. We've got some vets like Sutton and Swift. And I don't know that we have quarterback stacking we like unless we want to pull up Herbert. What would you like to do here?
I think Swift definitely getting a third running back before it falls off the cliff. I really like, especially in 20-round format. I probably would go receiver here. A rookie pick like Lemon is fun. I'm okay with Sutton. I mean, targeting good offenses seems like a good strategy. And we just know Denver is, really good offense. So
yeah, I'm not excited about Pittsburgh. I'm tentative about Brian Thomas Jr.'s price. I don't love the Arizona stuff. Yeah. Evans is interesting. So it's like it's Lemon or Sutton or Evans for me.
Let's go Sutton.
All right. We are a no rookie team through 6 rounds. We're saying to your rookies, give us the underpriced bets. And I hate to say it, but like Sutton continued to be who he was. Like I think he had a down year, all things considered, but he still proved to be
1,000 yards, 8-9 touchdowns.
He will randomly be the focal point of the offense. I think that's more of a Peyton thing than anything.
Mm-hmm.
Also, for just talking about stacks, like interdivision, Chargers in Denver, game could go off if they play each other in the playoffs.
And also Denver, another quarterback we can get.
Yeah. What happened? Like the quarterback's not fantastic, but like they do throw a lot. They can score a lot of touchdowns. The run game hasn't proven to be anything elite. No. And Denver, same thing. What happens if the defense regresses? We just saw Surtain miss a lot of time. We don't know how their offseason's going to play out from a asset allocation with their quarterback breaking his foot and them kind of losing offensive steam down the stretch. I wouldn't be surprised if Peyton decides to allocate more to the offense. Bryant and Franklin are interesting, but they aren't alpha receivers. And so, what happens when this just continues to be a spread out offense and Sutton, as a 6th round pick now provides the right amount of floor and ceiling you want for, a guy at his cost.
Yeah, no, I completely, that's how I see it. Like Sutton is, he's not a guy who's going to be wide receiver 5 when we turn over the cards at the end of the year, but he can easily hit this value and he can easily, jump up a few tiers as well.
How are you handling Mike Evans at this price? I'm reading the tea leaves and feeling like he's more likely to leave Tampa than not, probably chasing a ring, probably chasing Hall of Fame stats. I think it was like he's always been kind of an injury-prone guy with the hamstring and the ankle and stuff, but when he's healthy, we know what his ceiling is. I'm curious how you're handling him at ADP right now.
I mean, I kind of look at it. I think there's a very small, retirement chance. We just don't know, but I don't truly see it. I lean that he more than likely stays, but if he leaves, it's going to a good situation. He's not going to Cleveland, right? He's going to Buffalo. He's going to, San Francisco.
If they somehow make that.
Or San Francisco if Juwan Jennings leaves, like they're going to, something.
Oh my God. Mike Evans with Purdy would be fun. I don't know. And I was saying this in a couple of the Discords I'm in. I'm not sure San Francisco spends a lot of money on one player, given the Ayuk situation unfolding and the front office, via Mike Silver 2 years ago saying, "Hey, tighten up the wallet." Yeah. So this might be make make a bunch of Jags work. But I do agree that Evans. So if Evans stays in Tampa, how are you handling him? Do you think he's underpriced, overpriced?
I think he's underpriced. I mean, this is a guy. I believe 2 years ago when he missed those 3 games with 3.5 games because he got injured before halftime the Ravens game, same game that Godwin got injured at the end of the game. But he missed 3.5 games and he still finished as a top 10 wide receiver. Like he's just that good, and again, touchdowns matter so much. And speaking of red zone weapons and touchdown weapons, Mike Evans, that is absolutely who he is. So I think Mbuka, if Evans is back, is overpriced. Godwin.
I think Mbuka is overpriced even if Evans leaves because I don't think Tampa just doesn't fill Evans' role.
Yeah.
And McMillan and Godwin looked good and are there. We're on the clock. I assume Justin Herbert is an auto click given our double. The question is, do you want a triple stack with QJ? Do you want to add Kyle Monangai? What else do you want to do here?
I don't think we need Monangai since we went Swift. What do you think on tight end?
We got Pitts, Laporta, Gadsden. We could pull up or we could push. I'm fine with whatever.
Let's do Pitts. I don't love it, but he's fallen to the point now where I think he's like when he started this at 48 or whatever, that was insane. But he's now fallen 4 rounds, and I think this, he finishes tight end 2 last year. I think there's a lot of landing spots if he's not back in Atlanta, and if he is back in Atlanta, that is something that we know Stefanski does well is tight ends. So I don't hate it from that perspective.
I have a sneaking suspicion Pitts outprices himself. I feel like if he was going to get capped, because they fired the coach, but they retained the GM. The GM was the one that leaked, hey, he's on the trade table. We don't know how confident we feel about him. Even last year, it felt like his ceiling was better. He played better, but he was also kind of like a, hey, he's the only weapon or he's the only second other weapon. Type of circumstance. So I wonder if he's kind of priced himself out given how good of a year he had, but with a team and a staff that hasn't felt like they're going to retain him. I do agree though, with Stefanski, this feels more than fine. And what could go wrong reinvesting in Pitts, but at least at cost. Yeah. I mean, he probably outprojects some of his cohorts. His ceiling is undeniable, if not maybe a little bit of a mirage, but he was a better target earner, and he just looked he and Javonte both physically looked better than they had in the last couple of years. That seems to bode well. But if he gets a big bag in free agency, I think he's underpriced because he likely ends up in a place that really prioritizes him, Also, just want to note, we did end up in a big board with Daily Rojo, aka Pat Crane, likely driving the sidekick for a test drive. Brian Robinson, Derrick Henry, so double running back start, just like his BBM start. Curious for the 0 RBs Clappy. It's curious, all the big winnings. And then Rashee Rice, not afraid of the suspension, I guess. The Sims know best. Jalen Waddle, who I think this is the 4th round Waddle is more than fine price, if not maybe slightly underpriced. Burden, shocker. Warren, Pittman, Purdy. So it looks like the Sims are, right in alignment. Get free running backs with good ceilings and floors and projected volumes in the first 6 or 7 rounds. Tack on some upside receivers. I don't love the Warren price, but I guess the Sims know best. And then Purdy is just I can't fathom his cost. It seems so stupid. He's good. He has a great ceiling. He just showed it was an immensely higher ceiling than people give him credit for, given the rushing touchdowns. And they're going to have enough talent in Shanahan's offense to be good. So I'm clicking away. I think he belongs in the Lawrence Herbert Dak range.
No, and that's what's so weird about the quarterback situation. Obviously, we've seen fluctuation. Mays slid down. Lamar's come up a little bit. Jaden's come up a little bit. Hurts hasn't come up too much, which is kind of shocking, given that I do think the Kevin Petula was a big factor.
I don't know how much better their offense has gotten, though. We are on the clock. Gadsden does come back to us.
I like seeing Gadsden and then just being done at tight end.
I'm okay with that, at least for a long, long time. So we've got some time. What do you like to do here? We're at a 1-3-3-2 build.
Well, he wouldn't come back to us. I would consider Emmett Johnson here, the running back. Pull him up some.
So you're thinking of Emmett Johnson over Algier. None of these receivers or quarterbacks do it for you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay pushing quarterback to the next go round. Baker's fine there, but Shoup, I like Shoup, but that's a bit of a price for.
Yeah, I think getting what's the word I'm looking for? Getting desperate at a onesie position feels like a poor route. I mean, we keep learning that cheap late quarterbacks can be underpriced. Security is overrated and health is not guaranteed. But through 10 rounds, we have a 1-4-3-2 build. Justin Herbert, Ashton Jinty, Omarion Hampton, DeAndre Swift, Emmett Johnson, our first rookie, and a big underpriced. And you know what? If this feels like the same Cam Scatabo thesis of hey, if he gets better draft capital or he gets more work than we think, and he's a good, talented prospect, this is a smash of a price. Just load up. Ladd McConkey, Devontae Adams, Cortland Sutton at receiver, Kyle Pitts, and Aronde Gadsden. So we have a triple stacked Justin Herbert and the Chargers. I love it. We talk about how top of the show, just hammer the Mike McDaniel offense with the Chargers. We are doing just that. Feels pretty good. I don't love the receivers that go in that range. I like Godwin fine. I like Robinson fine. Coker's fine.
What's
both
your
quarterbacks we discussed and Mayfield and Shoup go up.
What's your take on Wandale's landing spot?
I think he either returns to the Giants or he's a shockingly higher paid guy given his stats. And if he reunites with Dayball or in the world of slot receivers are disappearing and don't matter, he seems to be one of those goats to the team where the slot receivers are a boon. I mean, hell, he could easily be a really big hit with Shanahan, if they decide, hey, we're going to let Jennings walk. We like Pearsall, but he hasn't maintained health. Well, a Wan'Dale Robinson type with a, spam it type of Shanny offense. I think he's got enough outs with, if he stays, I think he's got the benefit of a known commodity. And either way, he's going to get paid a lot, which means he probably gets a lot of work, and we know he's a good target earner, and now we know he's got a little bit more to his profile than we thought. The price feels like he feels like a cheaper Shakir, but I've seen more out of Wandale than I have out of Shakir. So the price seems a bit silly, all that considered.
Yeah, no, I would love if he does go to Dayball, because I think, the problem is not everyone knows how to use receivers.
You're right. He could easily go to a place where he's miscast and misused. But I don't know that team pays him a lot of money, though.
Yeah, you'd hope not, but teams make some bad decisions.
They're dumb. Yeah, they make dumb
decisions. And it's also going to a bad quarterback, because I think Cam Ward is going to have a much better sophomore year. It was more of the pieces around him versus him. So
I love him with Dayball for sure.
Yeah.
What do we want to do here? Coming up, I assume KC Concepcion will go. Are we looking at running back? Are we looking at quarterback?
I think quarterback, and probably a receiver. I like Shaheed, another guy who I think could get a nice little landing spot.
How would you have all of these dudes ordered?
I think I would have it the receivers in that order, and then I'd probably have Cam Ward above Stroud.
Okay, so do you want Concepcion or name your receiver, and then it sounds like
let's hit up another rookie, Concepcion. He's the one in the market. Not only did he have a zero, no ADP when this thing started, but he's being pulled up to the 130s here, and I think that he's not guaranteed lock for the first round, but I think he's like an 80% first rounder, if not early second. So Denzel Boston goes 85 to 90. Lemon goes 60. Yeah, he might only go 10 spots in the regular draft after Lemon. Maybe 20 tops, but my point is there's not going to be a huge gap there, and yet you're talking double the ADP at 130 versus Lemon at 60. Is he as good as Lemon? No, but he ends up at a better location because he's at the back half of the first round and he goes to a team with a top tier quarterback.
I mean, like it's interesting because I was going to make from like a draft comp perspective, a Ladd McConkey comp. I don't know Casey Concepcion's profile much, but I immediately think, well, if he's not a first rounder, he could be a priority second rounder, like we have seen with Ladd McConkey going to a good team and a good setup and then smashes ADP. And then look up his draft profile. He's kind of built like Ladd McConkey at 5'11", 190, who comped really well to Chris Olave and Percy Harvin. And then I see that Lance Zierlein has comped him to Doug Baldwin. I wonder how strong the Ladd McConkey comps might be for that. And then given that price, like Dobbs feels fine. Booty feels we're paying for last year a little too much because they
I agree.
Spend a lot of money and bring in a lot of talent. He's fine and interesting, but maybe overpriced. I am not touching Ayuk at that cost, given his rehab and work ethic, and feels bad. And then, I agree that like Mendoza seems fun, but Ward with Dayball, like Ward, not the most promising rookie year, but he did look much better late down the stretch.
Yep.
And if anybody's going to get guys running more, it's Dayball. Yeah. And that unlocks the ceiling and the floor. And from that perspective, I'm in. And it does make me sad to see that Kerrane is getting to build an absolute San Francisco juggernaut at the turn, but I like Kittle a lot. This ADP makes more sense, I guess. But like Achilles at his age, even with the elite athletic profile he has, I can't help but be a little worried about like the timetable and the effectiveness year one.
Well, and not only time, like your, general timetable, but the other thing on top of it is we just saw a year where San Francisco was extremely cautious with their injuries. They waited till Kittle. Yeah, they waited till Kittle was healthy to bring him back. They waited. They brought back Purdy. He got hurt again. Pearsall, another one. They waited consistently. And honestly, the year before, look how long they waited to bring McCaffrey out there, and then he gets injured. So I mean, they try. They literally try, and it just, whatever.
Well, you can't outdo electromagnetic fields. That's the problem. You can't load manage electricity. We're coming up here on the turn. I assume if Shaheed is here, he's an auto smash for you.
Yeah.
What else would we? Well, there he goes. Are you in on Malik Willis at this price, given the desperation, or are you looking elsewhere?
I'm okay at Willis, given our build. I think we're fine. We're fine at running back for a while. We're fine at tight end for a while. So taking Willis here can be a nice little luxury. I'd probably look receiver. I don't mind down. Surratt's one of my favorite rookie receivers. I think he's an early to mid second rounder. He's not going to run fast, but he is just a technician at the position. He's also very NFL ready. So I think he's a guy who the McVay Shanahan tree will love, because he's going to go out there and be, he's a lot like Cooper Kupp. I mean, just will run every route exactly how you want it every single time.
Go ahead.
And just gets open that way. And he's not going to dust people. He's not going to, get 40-yard touchdowns down the field, but he's also very strong in the red zone. 3 straight years, all under Kurt Signetti, but at JMU and 2 years at Indiana with 3 different quarterbacks with roughly 800 yards and 8 or more touchdowns, including 15 this past year.
That sounds nice. And so that's what I like. So like, I think Willis is the upside shot you need. If you're going to push quarterback, like we kind of did, we've seen the ceiling Malik Willis has. And I think at cost, it makes sense. Like Willis has a top 3, if not top 1 ceiling. We've seen that throwing and passing. Like this is arbitrage Lamar, and volatility in a 3 quarterback build. I'm more than fine with, given a ceiling like that. I think he's liable to get a Darnold, Geno, Baker, show us what you got type of deal, and in the right system could be a boon. Seems like the easy comparison to draw is Miami, with the entire Green Bay staff moving there. So that's interesting. And then I love, like, given how far we pushed receiver, it makes sense to take an upside shot. And
Yeah.
rookies have, infinite upside ceiling, right? I think Downs is limited in the slot only, world he's living in. He's talented, but if he's not going to run all the routes and he's not going to be, a priority as a slot, then there's a problem.
Yeah.
You mentioning that Surratt is NFL ready, a red zone guy, and just a route technician. I love to hear that, because you said Cooper Kupp. When you said all of that, all I could hear was Amon-Ra St. Brown. I love this profile coming out because he was profiled as a slot, but he was just a good route runner,
Yeah.
a good catcher of the football, and got open well. And those things translate really well to the NFL level because you understand routes, you understand how to run those things, and ultimately getting open is going to, and it's why I've invested in guys like, Amon-Ra early on, because like these are the tools and the trust that you build. And hearing that he's got that type of build, he's got that type of acumen, that gets you on the field, that gets you targets, and it makes you a quarterback's best friend.
Yeah.
And then also, and then if you have a red zone profile, now your ceiling is massive. And that's such an easy click for me to make in fantasy football early on, because I don't need to know the draft capital if I know that you're going to be able to come and like earn trust and earn work. Those guys are the guys that get prioritized eventually, if not day one. And that's a huge boon at the cost.
Yeah. And that's also why I like bringing up the fact that he did it with 3 different quarterbacks, because it just shows like he earns the guy's trust off the bat, and he's like, I'm the one. And so I do find that impressive. And I think, he's the type of guy, scouts will think one thing of him, but coaches, offense coordinators, receivers coaches, they're going to love him.
I love to hear that. Well, we're coming up on the turn. We're 3-4-5-2 build. I assume we push tight end a little bit further, but there are a couple names that might be interesting. Seems like we're done at quarterback. Running back, maybe, but I don't love a lot of the names. I don't know about you. What
I'm
do
okay
you like?
waiting for running back.
You prefer running back here?
No, I'm waiting for it.
Gotcha. Who do
So
you like here at receiver?
I kind of like some of these young guys like Tesla, Trey Harris, because we have Ward. I don't mind bringing up Biomanor. Normally I like him more at cost, but that I think would make sense. I'd probably go
interesting just because he looked good. He scored touchdowns, but you call your shot.
I'd probably go Tesla. I mean, we already have a lot of Chargers, so I don't know if we need to go more.
Yeah.
Normally I'd say Trey Harris over him, but I'm fine mixing that. And then let's go Biomanor. I don't mind bringing him up. I doubt he comes back.
I mentioned it. Like I like my co-host on Toxic Tower initially was like, I think I really like DK. He looks so explosive, yada yada. And then I went and checked the stats, and all of the sticky metrics, like first downs per route run, target share, first read targets, Biomanor was better at, and they're both the same, draft capital. And so, given all of that, if you're going to invest in Tennessee, I think they could easily move on from Ridley. I don't know that they prioritize.
I think they move on from Ridley. I do think DK has more upside, and also I think Dable, coming from the
Dable connection feels really good.
Like DK, I think could fit his style of receiver quite a bit.
I agree with that, and ultimately it's just like, I think both are solid hits right now because I don't know that they are able or do bring in a bunch of influx of talent. So let me just take shots. Tesla legitimately still kind of struggled separating at times, but he's a touchdown magnet.
Insane.
He's a handcuff at worst. I think Detroit can easily get much healthier at minimum than they were last year, especially on offensive line. And what if he develops? What if he gets better? He's obviously a fan favorite of the coaching staff.
Yeah.
We know that the staff will hyper prioritize guys like they did with JMO. So it seems like an easy click as far as year 2 guys are concerned. I know even if he wasn't the biggest target earner, a third receiver on a potentially elite offense is a more appealing piece than Marvin Mims, Calvin Ridley, Kyle Williams to me.
Well, it's also to your point about the Lions, like Jared Goff, it's essentially 4 years now, but the last 3 including one without Ben Johnson, over 4,000 yards passing, 30 plus touchdowns, including like 34, 35, 36 the last 3 years, somewhere in that ballpark. And the year before that was 29 touchdowns. So this is an offense that we know can produce passing touchdowns, quite a lot of them. And even if he is the fourth or fifth passing weapon, when you consider Gibbs and Laporta,
sure,
he still could get, like we saw, 5, 6, 7 touchdowns. And at this price, that's worth it, you know?
Well, and so I'm a little skeptical on Laporta's health with the herniated disc. And so if and on this team, we don't take Laporta. So it's like, okay, we didn't take Amon-Ra, we didn't take JMO.
Yeah.
We kind of purposely avoided Laporta. So let's go get the other guy that could score touchdowns and damn near scored 2 in a single game if he didn't already. Off the top of my head, I can't remember if that stuck or not. But it's like that's the type of random spike week profile you should chase in a format like this. I assume at this point we're looking towards running back, maybe a third tight end, or just keep hammering and catching up a receiver. What do you like to do here?
Yeah, I'd probably get a running back here. I think that makes sense. Who
do you like down here?
Is Emmanuel Wilson still there?
No. Is it? Oh my God. There, yeah. Emmanuel goes.
Okay. I kind of like Claiborne among the rookies and Naj. So let's
go with Claiborne.
That.
Do you want to do another running back? Do you want to do another receiver? What do you want to do here?
I think we could probably wait at receiver.
Okay. What other names do you like?
I kind of like just point up Naj the most. Yeah.
I'll go with Najee. Achilles, but again, size. When he tore it, seemed early enough on. I mean, we're talking the Kareem Hunt role, like 18th round goal line to buy some rookies time or just to score some random touchdowns every now and then. I'm curious. Talk to me about Claiborne. I know nothing about him.
Claiborne, Wake Forest running back. He's going to be the guy who blows up the combine with speed. Like, he is a track star. He was like, he's on Bruce Feldman's freaks list every year. I can't remember, but he was like all state track, and could have maybe gone on like an Olympic level. So he will have some of those. He's not consistent enough. So he's not going to be like Jahmyr Gibbs or anything like that. But I do think he's good enough as pass catching back. He can fill that role. And that's probably going to be it. Like the change of pace, hit a home run, try and hit a home run, get involved in the passing game. He scored a lot of touchdowns for being, more of a smaller back. But I don't know how sticky that is going forward.
Okay. Yeah, it feels like those types are either like they impress, like it's either Raheem Mostert or it's Jaden Blue, Jalen Wright, where it's like, well, the speed's just not, it's not, capitalizing. But to me, that sounds like a guy that could potentially at minimum be, a returner to just be active on game day. And then you hope that like the Jaden Blue thesis, if he wasn't an idiot and had good work ethic, of like, hey, your speed is valuable on game day at minimum, and then ideally you get more from there. And that makes sense. I'm more liable to make a click like that than I am like Ray Davis, Neal, or Johnson. I'm curious though, with some of these names I've heard, like Adam Randall and Mike Washington, some of these like pass catchers for Randall specifically, receiver turned running back, kind of like Tyrone Tracy, or how interested are you in those profiles, or are you not as confident as the market? And I say confident with quotations because their ADP is low, but the drafters the ball knowers seem to love them as high upside, but I'm curious if they're overconfident in how translatable the skills are to the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, Adam Randall is intriguing guy, converted wide receiver like the Brashard Smith, Tyrone Tracy, and he's also a legit 6'2", like 230. The problem is he's also not a great receiver. He drops the ball a lot. I think there's developmental upside there, but I just don't imagine he gets on the field a lot as a rookie. That's kind of my fear. Mike Washington, I'm a bit more higher on, and generally speaking, I'm probably about even on him and Claiborne. Like I think I have him ranked as my 7th and 8th running backs in this class. So, I think they're fine targets in this late range and landing spot. Washington is a bit bigger. He had a weird, SEC breakout after spending most of his career at Buffalo and New Mexico State.
Okay. Yeah, the Randall thing felt maybe a little too pattern matchy of like, well, we just click the guy that used to be a receiver. We're to 3-6-7-2. You mentioned you maybe being done with tight end. Do you want to just hammer running back and receiver here to finish it out, or are you curious to see what the tight ends look like if the receivers are good?
I think I definitely probably add Jeremy Bernard, another fun rookie. I think it's second rounder. Played at Alabama these last 2 years. Also another guy coaches I think are going to love. I kind of like the receivers here. Tight end, I'm assuming Gunnar Helm's gone.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. If Helm was still there, I think that would have made sense. But otherwise, I'm fine with those two tight ends. So I'd probably go another receiver.
Okay. And 9 receivers. Who do you like? We've got bodies.
Yeah.
And then
I honestly don't hate a lot of these guys. Like Cooper Kupp, I don't think he's retiring. I think Shaheed's gone. So I think he's fine. I think Malik Washington could have a much bigger role with Tyreek gone. In a 9 receiver build, Keenan Allen could have made sense because if he retires, so what? But no, I'm fine with Cooper Kupp. I know he only had he had 3 games with 10 plus points and only max was like 13, but that's also variance, right? Like next year he could have 5 of those games and the highest being 20. I don't, as much as I love JSN, I don't know if JSN's going to have a 45% target share again.
Well, and even if he does, the offense as a whole could take a step forward with, healthier, stronger offensive line, more passing volume. If it's just Walker and they don't bring in another running back, his success rate could easily make them a little timid on like running the ball a lot, go more pass heavy, lean into Darnold's strengths. Cause I'm fairly certain they're going to owe him an extension or, a big bump in pay. And their passing volume at minimum could just increase a lot if JSN messes any time. Cooper Kupp's not totally dead. None of these guys are super, super exciting. Keenan Allen's age is pretty concerning, even if his target earning was pretty interesting and good. So I agree that Keenan Allen seems like a, potential guy you bring in to like aid a rookie, or be the third missing piece from just like hey, we want someone viable. So yeah, I don't mind taking the, and also the vet early could be an easy bridge from a volume perspective. We're just throwing darts. We're trying to hit things. We're also trying to make sure we're not taking a bunch of zeros. And in volume, I think mixing in rookies and vets of all types help kind of, build out that perfect texture, if you will.
No, I agree. I think it's good to have balance. And I like this. Like we have some second year guys, we have some rookies, some extreme vet guys like Kupp and
I like that extreme, not seniors, not dust balls. We finished with a 3-6-9-2 build. That's the first time I've built a team like this. And I think that's fun. I think we get a little too comfortable with multiple tight ends. If you do hit on 2 breakout tight ends, you don't need a third. They don't score that much outside of that. Justin Herbert, Cam Ward, Malik Willis at quarterback. I really like this room from a rushing, ceiling, breakout offense perspective. Top of the show, we talk about the Chargers, and we build out a big Charger stack with some nice upside shots at quarterback, theoretically at least speaking.
Yeah.
Ginty, Hampton, Swift, Emmett Johnson, Damon Claiborne. Is it Desmond? I want to say Desmond, but it says Damon.
I know it's Damon.
Okay, Damon Claiborne and Najee Harris for just, hey, look at these upsides. Look at this potentially undervalued once again profile in Swift. If he stays in Chicago or if he gets paid, like he looked good. He wasn't phased out. He was valuable in multiple phases. He still has breakaway potential. 2 rookie big shots. And then, this year's, Kareem Hunt of like, well, he plods forward for 4 yards per carry. He ends up somewhere valuable. I keep getting told this is a very weak rookie class. So every time I hear that, my ears perk up for the undervalue / free veteran running backs. We fill it out with a lot of numbers at wide receiver with Ladd McConkey, Devontae Adams, Sutton, Concepcion, Surratt, who I loved your breakdown. That's a guy I'm going to have to target more heavily in that range if he's truly that NFL ready and just a good ball player. Tesla, A.O. Manor to stack with Ward, Jeremy Bernard, a favorite of the ball knowers for wide receiver, Cooper Kupp, and then Kyle Pitts and Rondé Gadsden to fill out our upside at tight end and including our Herbert stack.
Yeah, I mean, I really like it, and I think every room is strong, even tight end going two, because we took two relatively early. I think that's how you do it. And while I think they're generally speaking, I like my last couple of picks to be, wide receivers and tight ends because that's the most, I think, still value on the board.
Sure.
But yeah, I didn't think we had to push a third tight end given those two.
No. I'm pretty interested to see the name. So the more I'm drafting, the more I realize like I agree that I'm like, oh, like tight ends and receivers late still seem like decently viable. And then I see names like Rodgers, Cousins, Tua, all undrafted. And that seems like a leak. Once again, it's at least with these two names.
At least one of those is going to be a starter somewhere.
Starter, if not all three, week
Oh,
one.
absolutely could. I mean, Rodgers could still
and
retire,
Kirk could
but
absolutely be the starters week 17. So I might have to start pushing quarter, like, as much as I like Cam Ward and co. And hell, like, Kerrane takes McCarthy here. If they're gonna be this free, I might start building a lot more really late quarterback. Because like how secure is Kyler Murray? Like we've seen him be benchable, we've seen him he's got a stink on him. Stroud's price doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me yet again. Brissett going this much higher, and then Rodgers, Kirk, and Tua going undrafted seems wrong. So I might have to just start adjusting to where like quarterbacks once again are really good last round picks. I have to ask you before we get off, who the hell is Justin Jolly?
Tight end from NC State. He was at the Senior Bowl, like 6'3", 250. He's actually a pretty good receiving tight end, but I think he's more like a third, fourth rounder. So I don't have much, UD interest. Because the other thing with the tight end class, it's definitely not as good as last year's. And outside of Sadiq, who we can project first round draft capital, even second round draft capital is no guarantee that you're going to be effective. I mean, look at Michael Mayer, that was a really strong tight end class. Look at Michael Mayer. Look at Brenton Strange, but he went to a team with Evan Ingram. Schoonmaker went and Ferguson outplayed him. Some of that was injury to Schoonmaker in camp, but it just, So even if Jolly and some of these guys are second or third rounders, don't bet many of them have fantasy upside.
Justin Jolly sounds like he's the 101 in Hallmark movie boyfriends, not necessarily a tight end I'm drafting. Steve, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Where can the people find you and what you got going on?
You can find us at Fanspeak Network on YouTube. We also have our Fanspeak Substack, DGen Substack. You can find that. Just go to our YouTube or our Twitter. My Twitter is at SteveOSpeak. And you can find all the content that we do there. We have a free Discord also that people can join. And I just want to thank you for having me on. This was a lot of fun. Look forward to doing it again. And always enjoy talking ball and drafting.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. I look forward to a much longer stream where we can crank out a couple of drafts and talk a lot more ball. But gonna take the wife to see a comedy show here in a little bit downtown. But this was a blast. I loved some of the rookie breakdowns. I highly recommend Fanspeak. Meg and Steve do a great job. The Substack's awesome. I really enjoy all the breakdowns. You'll have some very, very good perspectives and some fun macro takeaways. Player specific, especially rookie specific. Had some really good hits last year. So always enjoy bringing you on and working with the Fanspeak folks. So go check out Fanspeak, check out their Substack, get in the Discord, check them out on Twitter. We will catch y'all next time. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great night. Had to vamp